with being 5:01, I guess we'll call it to order, is that all right?
Yeah.
All right, approve the meeting minutes from November 7th, but I don't believe we have any, so we'll just move those forward.
Okay. We'll do that next one.
Yeah, we'll do that at the next meeting then, if that's okay. Move on to discussion items, park sign project final design approval.
Okay, so the high school just got the material in yesterday for the park signs. So they're, if I'm correct, the new semester, I'm not sure when the new semester starts, but that's when the project will take place, is when their next class begins. So here's, you guys picked these shapes of the signs. We're back to this.
All of them?
These were the 4 you liked the best. And there, it is that green color, upper left hand. I just couldn't make all of them green. So it'll be this color. Jolene mentioned wanting to see the Ripon, Wisconsin logo on there compared to the Park and Rec logo, which the Ripon, Wisconsin logo is in the Park and Rec logo, but so
my point was, I remember,
Yeah.
was like, you know, if that's something you're committing to, and you really, I mean, and this is gonna be the next, 10 years, I just wanted to make sure that was a very thoughtful logo from Parks and you wanted to brand yourself. If that was just something that was short term, that was like, hey, it looks nice for now,
yeah.
then my question was, then maybe we don't brand it with that, so that it's more timeless with the just Ripon one. But I'm not against it, to be
Yeah,
clear, if that's
yeah.
something that you're wanting to brand.
Oh no, I mean the logo's everywhere now, but on the truck and the building, I don't plan on redoing the logo anytime soon, but I don't know what anybody else thinks about it. But so there's just the comparison of the two. You can see them of the sign, fonts exactly the same on all of them. That's what you guys chose. So ultimately, it's up to you all on what shape we go with.
And how big is it again?
There'll be 5. It'll be a little less than 5 feet because the pieces are 10 feet long.
Were you also thinking about putting, there was a question about, I think we talked about this, was the new park, like the new, you could put something on this like a paw print, or it could almost be like a scavenger hunt.
Oh, that's part of the suffrage playground.
But I felt like there was some talk about including it in the signage. Was there not? Was that?
I would have to ask Gerber Leisure what prints would be on the signs for the playground. If he goes, I would have to ask because I don't want to put the wrong prints and they're actually nowhere to be found on them.
Does anyone else remember? I'm not saying I would like the way it would look on this. I'm just saying that there was a conversation about making these interactive.
That was
That was a separate.
Yeah, that was just
a-
more about the playground itself,
Okay.
not the
Yeah,
Not
Okay.
separate.
Yeah, there was a sign in the center of it.
Honestly, I'm not oval. It's simple, I kind of
You're talking about the top two left?
Yeah.
What signs does Green Lake use? I feel like it might be closer to that upper right one.
It's good, they should. But there's no such a thing, so I'm not really sure.
Being 5 feet long, I don't know if I prefer the oval at that size, but.
Yeah, can you remind us again, what is the size of the one more time? I think you just said.
Yeah, it's a cut in half. It's 5. It'll be a little less than 5 feet because when it comes to cutting it, and it won't be exactly 5 feet. But
5 feet wide?
yes.
About 3 feet high or 4 feet high.
I think it was 4, if I remember correctly. I can look back at the emails to.
It would probably depend a little bit on which shape somebody may have applied.
Yeah, but I don't think it'd go around.
Like oval.
It's undesirable, like we want to, yeah, if we want to use the Park and Rec logo, the shape on the upper right seems to fit it better than it does on the oval. But now we're getting into the weeds, stuff that we probably need, but.
I think I'd like the upper right one myself.
And then Alan talked about I'll state that so I can show you. So the, posts, like it would be, we're still trying to figure it out to fabricate it or something, but it'll be like metal that will come down the sides to attach the post to the sign. So it'll be like this, like going down the sign. So I don't know if that makes a difference with the oval one.
Awkward.
Yeah. I thought that's fun.
Especially with posts. How would you do that with the oval?
You can, I think you would have to make it attachment.
It'd be significantly easier to snap those on the oval than it would be on the flat part.
Sure, we stand up or right hand corner.
I appreciate having the autonomy in this committee too, because again, we are the Parks and Rec committee. Should we also, I mean, maybe it's too late now and I don't wanna postpone this, but have we consulted with the new communication person in the city? I mean, I'm thinking of communication, I also think of branding, or is that not her role? I mean, so be it, maybe it's not.
Yeah. I think ultimately, either of these generally fits in the overall design with our branding and logos, because it's using Ripon, Wisconsin, or Ripon Parks and Rec. It doesn't matter to her, it's not gonna matter to her what we put on it. It's just, from a design perspective, we're limited with what we have based on the type of sign and the capabilities of the school district. So I think these fit within our other branding. It just comes down to what fits within kind of the parks, right? I mean, you're going from a brown, yellow sign to something that looks exponentially better, or what looks better based on the community, right? And when you think about the community, you want probably something more historic looking, something a little bit classier. So, you've hit on one that probably looks more ornate.
Yeah, and that's very traditional.
So I think from a brand perspective, what fits the parks, what's gonna look the best, I don't think you can necessarily go wrong with the one you selected. It then comes down to what you want to put in the logo. And if you wanna do Parks and Rec, that's fine. We have made a bigger effort in the parks to put that logo out there. So for example, the dog waste stations all have like that logo with Parks and Rec. The disc golf course has that in it, so we've incorporated it. I wouldn't imagine that we would go too far away from it. Is it safer to go with just the Ripon, Wisconsin? Probably. But at the same time, we've done the other logo on other signage already.
I like the park and rec.
It's a brand, I think.
I think part of the reason we've taken that approach of putting that in there is to differentiate it and to kind of just say, there is a Parks and Rec department to bring
Makes
more
sense.
awareness to that. Because, for 20 plus years, there wasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
That's nice, yeah.
No, I like it. Motion in the top right.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Cool.
When are they gonna be out?
Yeah.
Is the semester started?
Yeah, just started.
Yeah.
Oh, it just started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is, when you take down the old signs, don't just throw it away. Okay. Well, no, we can think of doing something or preserving them in some way, because they are probably technically
Legacy.
legacy.
I'm old and they've been here since,
Yeah.
since I was a kid, so. All right, ball diamond agreements.
Yes, I'm sorry, I wish you guys had the physical copy here, oops. But everything highlighted in yellow, it's easier to read up here, are the changes that we've currently made to the ball diamond agreement. So the agreement expired in 2023, or 2024. Well, it did in 2023, and then if no one disagreed or what it may be, it was extended a year, so in 2024. So with that being said, with the years that we've had this agreement with them, now we know, with working with them, what hasn't worked, what has worked, what we want to do differently for both them and ourselves as well. And then as well with the quad construction and work being done at some point this year, we want to make sure the fields stay at the quality that they are left after the work is done. We don't want to be back in the same exact spot in a couple of years because it wasn't maintained well or whatever it may be. So that's why we came back to the agreement. So in here we added some maintenance verbiage when it comes to dragging, lining the fields, filling in holes and repairing pitching mounds. And then right here it says adhering to the maintenance guidelines provided by the city, particularly for infield dirt and clay areas. And then in addition, reporting any damage, hazards, or deviations from the repair company's guidelines immediately to the city. So I asked Dan from MSA, he's putting together the spec for the quote that we'll get, if he can include a guideline that the company would provide of this is what you need to do to maintain the field. And then both organizations, the ball diamond clubs and the city would have to follow that to make sure everything stays as is. So that's all we really added for maintenance-wise when it comes to what the clubs are responsible for. This is, for example, the Ripon Diamond Booster Club. And then down here, this is the city's section of it. And routine field inspections, and then the same exact, establishing the maintenance guidelines provided by the consulting engineers or contractors. So that maintenance-wise, that is what we added. And then coming to inspection and reporting, just making sure we have regular inspections that are going on, and for them to bring us inspection reports as well. I think we said, yeah, if there was any, document the condition of the facilities, no any issues, yeah. So, and then consequences of improper maintenance. And then adherence to the standards that were set. And then lastly, we added an annual report requirement as well. Summarizing events hosted during the year, maintenance activities, any challenges that they encountered, and suggestions for improvements or additional support needed. So, I don't know if
You want me to comment? So taking a step back, obviously, we like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the common council authorized like no payment, or maybe 5 years ago, for Ripon Diamond Booster Club and the youth baseball, softball. A couple years ago, we started an agreement, and it just put some things on paper for maintenance and saying we wouldn't charge them, and they get priority for scheduling. They can host their events, with the idea too that we try to be collaborating on larger projects, right? And so that was approved by the council. We have since had agreements with the American Legion that mirrored the old agreement. In the conversations with the Diamond Boosters and the youth baseball and softball club, it kind of became clear that when we are going to be spending money as the city on redoing the ball diamonds this year, that it's really important that we follow certain maintenance guidelines moving forward. So we don't turn the newly created field over to groups that use it and then don't maintain it in a certain way, and then, you know, we're sitting here not charging them for the use. We've just spent $90,000 on the fields, and they get used and maybe not maintained appropriately. So establishing that, as well as then establishing some reporting requirements, because what we have found in our conversations with the groups is they're not necessarily working together either. And they're both responsible for the maintenance of fields. So there may be one group that says, well, we hired this company to come in and fix everything. And the other group says, well, we don't. We just do it ourselves. But then that group says, well, you're not doing it right. Okay, so then it gets to be a bumping of heads between two groups that are using it, and the city saying, well, it's not really our responsibility to maintain fields, it's your responsibility. But we're also not saying these are the benchmarks, or these are the things that need to be done to maintain the field properly. To ensure that one group isn't spending $17,000 a year, and another group is spending $2,000 or whatever, right? So there's gotta be some fairness in this through some, I believe, reporting back. The idea here is no different than some of the other agreements that we have with other organizations that either use or receive funds from the city, right? And ultimately, if these groups don't take care of it, the city has a responsibility to act. So, the technical agreement has expired, and we sort of honored it, but we would like to add some additional language to it as we invest in it, and to address some of the existing challenges.
So basically, once it's all done and you have the guidelines created by the company doing it, you just kind of create a nice form with some checklists, you know, we've done this, and, you know.
Now, will you create a document for that annual report so you make sure you get all the information that you like from them? That could be like put with this?
We can make it as simple as, so
Just
they don't
something
have to
that-
do a bunch of work. It's not meant to create
Just
work for them.
something simple that can be filled in.
Right, just some checklists and forms that, you know.
You get all the information you need.
And we report back just to see, because there's a lot of discussion out there regarding the use of these facilities for free because they are putting so much in.
Right.
But there's nobody tracking or reporting that to really understand what it is costing. And so I think it's important for them to show that as well, that this is what we are doing. So it's not meant to, I think it's important so they can show and we can get to the bottom of any problems as well, because if we have one group that's using it and leaving it for the other one to repair,
Yeah.
that's not fair either. Because we have 3 groups using it as well as a 4th, which the school district uses some of them, and there is no agreement with the school district, which is another thing we have to begin addressing.
I think those guidelines coming directly from MSA is the way to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good key, because it's not even about who's spending more, you know, if one group is doing it with volunteers, you know, versus this group's paying someone, that, as long as the work is getting done and it's still getting done to the right level of quality, then that's, you know, I think the main point. And then that also gives us a checklist so that we can inspect it and go and see, you know, are they actually doing the right work or whatever, so.
And I think that was the problem with, not that the agreement was the problem, but that it was so vague on, you just have to maintain the field, but it wasn't, this is how you're supposed to maintain the field,
Right.
so that's why.
Yeah, no, it makes
makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Just gonna be looking at the checklist and making sure that things are actually done, they didn't just check it off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right up here, so I see the fields every day, so yeah.
And then is there gonna be a timeline, say there is an issue, and
Mhm.
just to see if there's, oh, we'll get to it when we get to it?
Yeah.
That can cause issues too.
Yeah.
For the additional costs line up there under B, it says you're responsible for repairs or maintenance due to negligence. Do you think it should be saying it's negligence on their part, right? So if somebody comes and destroys the field, actually, maybe that's my question, I would like, and it's not associated with any of their games, any of their leagues, they're not responsible for that.
No, so like, for example, this is not the field, but the toilet got kicked in down there at the quad this year. It wasn't during their, games, whatever it may be, practices. They got there and it was like that, so we just took care of it. Like, we wouldn't go and charge them if we knew they didn't, like.
If I was them, I would ask this, do you feel like that's pretty straightforward somewhere in here,
Yeah.
that they feel that?
Yeah, I think it would probably be part of their checklist. Just like when you go to the Airbnb, run around real quick, make sure there's no broken lamps before you. You know, so they'd just do the same thing and then, you know, report, hey, this was broken, we got here, everything was fixed by the time we left, or, you know.
I think if you just said, like, if fields are required repairs and maintenance due to negligence by, then they will be financially responsible for it. I don't think.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's needed, but I think it might
I
add some
think it
clarity.
adds clarity because I think,
Yeah.
you know, there is some liability they have.
Yeah.
I believe there are insurance requirements that they're supposed to carry, so if somebody is down there and does, you know, purposefully break something,
Gets mad after the game.
right, that we aren't, you know, so
Right.
there's certain things that, but I think this is more for, they're not following what's asked of them, but if somebody goes and plays a pickup game down there and trashes the field, that's just part of being a public park, so we'll take care of that.
And then remind me where it says for the repairs due to the, according to the guidelines, do we say here, that you, maybe, should there be an approval process before you actually do a maintenance item to make sure it's following the guidelines, or is that not needed? Is that outlined clearly?
I think up front it says it will adhere to those guidelines established by the city, which are established by the engineering contractor. So I think up front it says that. Adhering to the maintenance guidelines.
And take out water.
But so if they're doing it, but as well as another group, again,
This would apply to each group as they use it.
Yeah.
So really what this company, like, we started having meetings with the groups, right, to try to get everybody on the same page.
Mhm.
This would be kind of a continuation of those meetings and meeting with each group individually if need be, but together mostly, right? Let's try to work together on this.
Yeah.
That's really the goal. But we can't necessarily tie one group to another group, you know, so.
Or we can at least hold them up to the same standard.
Yeah.
We have a standard.
And
We
here,
have to, first we have to make the standard, and then we can hold them to it.
and I don't wanna be, I mean, this is, again, I think we know how to work with each other, so I don't think it's gonna be an issue, but if I'm looking at that last one right now in yellow, reporting to the community's guidelines immediately to the city, you know, I mean, I don't know, within 3 days or something, should there be something like that, or are we okay? Because if something,
I like the idea of immediately, because what if one group uses it today and then another group uses it tomorrow, but you didn't report it until Monday?
but it's like 10 PM at night, I mean,
You
what
can
does that mean?
leave an email, leave an
Yeah,
email,
I would say-
we live in the
Okay,
internet age,
so-
you can send a message
so-
anytime.
So do you need to say it says to the city, does that mean Adam, does that mean Park and Rec?
It would be,
It would be me.
Do we
Yeah,
need
they
to- do we need to
know
outline
that.
that?
I can put it on there, but they do communicate with me primarily,
Okay.
or not primarily, that's who they communicate with, is me.
And we,
If we wanted to change it to the Parks and
Yeah, I
Rec,
know.
that if you wanted to make it more clear, yeah.
Yeah.
And you could even go ahead and just put to the Parks and Rec Department via email or phone.
I just
And
trying
then-
to
and then
anticipate
that
all of these, you know.
And then nobody can have any question about it.
I think the immediately is important just because, you know, are they gonna know? You know what I'm saying? And then, but, you know, we find out eventually if somebody does something, so just please be honest.
Actually, do you give me approval on that, or is that just,
Yes, correct, and then we can talk to the folks.
Yeah, I think we should have a recommendation to share or move forward with this. I don't know if it, we'll have to see if it, I think the last ones did go to the common council. These are, again, I think 3-year, so,
So that would be, I highlighted here, so it would be, I'm trying to think of which one, 20,
5, 26, 27.
27.
Yeah, 27 would be.
Oh, that would be 5 years.
Not that, I'm saying not to, but I'm saying the date of September.
Yeah.
For the annual report, do you want that by December? Or a certain other, do you need a
So
date?
they have to send me they start sending me like their schedules on January 1st, so it could be like along with your schedule, your annual report.
As long as you feel comfortable with that, or do you want it outlined here? You feel good without it?
I can add
It's
that.
up to you.
I think after the season might be good.
Oh, so it's fresh in their minds,
Season, yeah.
which is where I'm at.
I think it should be before September 1st, because if it gets to the point where there's non-renewal, because of, we just wanna make sure that they're on, so we'll clean up the timeline pieces.
I guess we're looking for a motion to at least advance this to the next step, so. Anybody's willing to make that motion, feel good?
Motion to move forward with this with the slate ends.
Motion has been made, second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Next is the annual report. So sorry, it looks similar to last year's, but
So you just put in pictures.
it's got different information. So, here is our annual report for the Senior Activity Center and the Parks and Recreation Department. If you knew that Christine, our Senior Activity Director, left, her name's on here because she's actually coming back. So on February 3rd, next Monday, she'll be back. So that's why her name is on here, if you're wondering, if you knew that she left to begin with. So, throwing that out there. Okay, so here's just our mission statement. Same, I didn't change it from last year, it doesn't change every year. So the Parks and Recreation Department and the Senior Activity Center, I will not read this whole blurb to you, but I can email it all to you guys too. So you can take a look at the finer details at home or whenever you have time. And if there's anything that you guys see, you think like, oh, you should add this, or whatever it may be, please let me know. And then same with you, Adam. So here's our approvals, grants, enhancements, whatever it may be in 2024. So the Horner Park project, that is what you guys approved the site amenities for at the last meeting. So those were ordered and they'll be here around March. So DPW will be installing them around that time. approval of the city's first inclusive playground, our skate park, that Adam and Jason helped out with. The Knowles Nelson Stewardship Grant Award, so we were awarded that earlier last year for the Selfish Park project. We received the grant through the Lion Energy Community Tree Planting Program. Through that grant, we planted 39 trees, but in total this year we planted 55 trees through additional donations from other organizations or people themselves. And then lastly, very exciting, we put down 625 cubic yards of wood chips, which is a crazy amount of wood chips. And that one in particular, that's where DPW dug out the playgrounds here in Murray Park, so that's what that is. So this year, the sponsorships, donations, and collaborations is a lot more expansive than it was last year. So for the Senior Activities Center side of things, it didn't change much, but for rec, it changed a lot. With our 5K Paws in the Park, the Touch a Truck, what else? There's one more event. That's what a lot of these came from, or from those larger scale events. So if it's a sponsorship of an event, donations towards the 5K, let's say, that's what that top part is. And then collaborations, that's more of like for the bunny hop, that's what I was forgetting. The bunny hop, we had a bunch of organizations around the trail that came, passed out stuff to kids, stuff like that. So that is the collaboration side of things. So it's pretty cool how much it grew. I almost ran out of space from last year. So that was fun to see how much event-wise what we did differently than last year. So that was fun to see.
I want to say that this is incredible to see, and I'm really, really proud of you. I don't know if it really matters, but for space, Fond du Lac Sheriff's Office, my guess is it's meant to say Fond du Lac County Sheriff's Office.
Where's that?
So if you want to save space, you could put FDL County.
You're so smart.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, thank you. That's probably.
Yes.
I don't like how close that one was. Actually.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then, again, I don't know if there's space, but one of my day job with the Women's Fund, one of our partners is ASAP, and most people, don't know what that is. So they often brand themselves and put ASAP Sexual Assault Center, but you don't need to. But it's nice to show that you are collaborating, and people may not realize what ASAP is.
Yes.
But that's up to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, park reservations wise, it didn't honestly change too much from last year. There were just a few more baseball and softball reservations. So these statistics, other than the Senior Activity Center, last year it was reserved twice, or not last year, 2023. It was reserved twice. In 2024, it was reserved 14 times outside of Senior Activity Center or park programming. That was just like if someone had, there was a lot of celebrations of life that were used here, and then like birthday parties, weddings, smaller weddings. There's a couple of them that happened here, so that was nice.
Have you up again offering that?
Sure. Yeah.
What's making a package do? You get married by a radio person.
We'll try.
That's awesome. It's like the perfect view.
Right.
Just have your ceremony out here, reception inside, perfect. But the only one that was a bit different was the Marine Lower Shelter. It didn't get reserved outside of softball or baseball organizations. They don't specifically, when they go in to reserve the facilities, they don't also reserve the shelter, but it's basically a package deal with the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it could have been used 200 times, and it's just not. It's a package deal with Diamond. So there's that. So here is our the budget insights. I apologize, it's slightly sideways. So this year, if you're wondering what went on at the Senior Activity Center when it came to program expenditure, the seniors went on 4 day trips. So they went to, I'll pull it up here to make it easier for myself. They went to Oshkosh for the Christmas Delights, the Cranberry Highway Tour, Door County Trolley Tour, and the tour of the Amish country. So those 4 program or events, that is why that amount is so high. And then as well as the Senior Activity Center programming revenue. Christine did a good job when it came to finding grants or donations to cover a large majority of the programming. There was a lot of generous people that gave towards the trips as well. I think on all 4 of the trips, the bus was covered by an anonymous donor, so that was awesome. So that is the end where it says Senior Activity Center grants and donations. That one's higher due to Christine's work in there. She did a great job with that. Senior Activity Center trip profits. So that is, there's an organization called, I think it's Colette Tours or something like that, Premier World Tours. If a senior goes on a trip out of the country, and they go through this program, the city gets money from that. So that's what that specifically is. That's not.
Advertising that.
What was that?
Let's be advertising that.
Right. It's actually a pretty good deal. We don't have to do anything, and other than just advertise it with pamphlets out there. That's all we do. So it's pretty nice. Yeah, I can't complain. So our tree donations and grants, with the Alliant Energy grant and then the rest of the tree donations of $7,565. So 5,000, a little less than 5,000 came from the Alliant Energy grant, and then the rest came from community members, the DAR, and SSM Health. So those were the others that donated trees. So that was a very large increase from last year, which was 0, so that was awesome. Rec program sponsorships, donations, that is primarily for the 5K, and then what we raised for, we didn't end up having the fireworks out here because of the weather, but that was primarily from those 2, from the 5K and that. And then park reservations, it was maybe $1,000 different than last year, and that didn't change too much. And then rec program revenue increased from last year as well, but it wasn't increasing too much different. So overall, donations, grants, all of that was awesome this year, or last year. Christine did an awesome job as well. I'll keep giving her a shout out. She did a lot when it came to making sure things were funded, when it came to just doing bra fries, or they had God bless that I was did not have to deal with it, but they did a rummage sale here. So this whole building was a gigantic rummage sale, and it honestly might be where that came from. Yeah, so they, little things like that helped fund the senior programs, which was great, because the seniors loved the day trips. They loved, a lot of the luncheons were covered by donations or sponsorships. So I think there was only a few luncheons that they had to pay for, and if they paid, it was a very, very minimal amount. So that was great as well. Here's the Recreation Department programming data. So this is our programming from this year. Overall, our most successful programs or events were our larger scale ones. When it comes to the 5K, the Touch a Truck, Paws in the Park, Bunny Hop, and those were our 3 most successful events. So now that, or event-wise, not programming-wise. So now that I'm like 2 years, I am 2 years in. As of in a couple days, I'll be here for 3 years. So yes, so now that I'm that far into it, now I can see what has not worked, what works. As you can see here, some of the numbers are only a few So, that was kind of an experiment with, Max and I, just when before I went on leave, when I was on leave, whatever else, just seeing what the community may want, adding some fun new programs in there, so, this year, all of these may not be on the list for this year, but we tried, and that's all you have to, that's what you can do when you're a new-ish department, is seeing what works, trying new things, so, and not everything's gonna stay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be disappointed about it either, keep the
Yeah.
creativity flowing out.
Yeah.
And then like
Right.
the motivated creations, that one.
I'm doing that again, that's
That got moved to a different night, and I
Yes.
wasn't able to make it.
I know.
It would have been nice.
Yes, no, that was actually a really fun program, and I talked to Elaine from the farm, and she's willing to do that again this year, so that's yes, that's coming up again. Yes, and just some feedback from the Buddy Hop and the Senior Activities Center reservation as well. But overall, there was 1,465 total registrations / attendees in rec programs from January 1st to December 27th. I don't need to read all the data, but that's a cool number. So many senior activity programs that I had to scrunch it all in this area. There were a lot of new, like I said, trips. All of these were brand new this year. Exercise programs, these were continued programs that they have been doing. But Christine has upped our numbers a lot last year. She did a lot of work, like I said, to make the programs affordable for the seniors, because that's how you get them to come, is if it's at a lower cost or they love food. They definitely come out if there is food involved. So,
Just become a senior.
yeah. So right here,
Food.
so right here, I said we had 46 luncheons in 2024. So we served 1,489 free or low cost meals, thanks to sponsorships, donations, fundraisers, and grants. So again, Christine did a lot of that. She did great work with the luncheon program and whatnot. So over 500 participants from the seniors population as well. And then looking ahead to 2025, our park improvements here, building on success, just like I already explained, prioritizing programs and events that have been successful. We learned from our experience. Things didn't meet our expectations, whatnot, that's going to happen, so building on the success. Community-centered initiatives, so continuously strengthening the partnerships that we've built through Rec and Senior Activity Center, in using local organizations or businesses or whatever it may be to expand our programming. And then volunteer growth as well, so that is a discussion that was had at the Dickens meeting today as well. It's tough. For example, I would bring up the 5K. It's not easy to plan a 5K by yourself, and I need to expand when it comes to volunteers and helping for 2025 to just make the events even better. It's not just my own thoughts putting it together. Everything works better when you have more than one brain. So that's one thing I definitely have to do better on this year is growing our volunteer list. Just Facebook info, that's not really important. But and lastly, just some pictures from our event, Cranberry Tour, pickleball. The Girl Scouts, they helped out a lot with seniors. That's them serving lunch at one of our luncheons at I think it was the Peace, Love, and Party luncheon, the hippie themed one. And the Bob Ross Paint Night and whatnot. So, yeah, we had a great 2024 and looking to expand 2025 and make it even better.
Good job.
Thanks.
Can I get a copy of this as well?
Yes, I'll email you guys all the document. If you noticed anything that I should change or that I should add, please let me know. I really appreciate it.
Are we looking for volunteers?
For me or for
Right.
not me, for rec or
Yeah.
So,
5Ks and whatnot.
so right now, so I shouldn't say I had nobody helping me out with like 5K, for example. Christine obviously helped me. But the biggest thing the morning of was it's me and one singular volunteer setting everything up, and I'm the only person that knows exactly where everything has to go and how to sign someone in for the 5K on the tablet, what the route, or luckily Christine knew the route, but like things like that I was the only person that knew. So that is what I need volunteers for, is like training people on, here's how to sign someone into the 5K, here's how to register them. But when it came to crossing guards, all that, I had that covered. So I had awesome volunteers. I had people from the library, I had people from Horicon Bank helping me out, just all over the place when it came to crossing guards and helping out with barricades. But it's more of like the logistics side of things that I need more help with. But senior activity center side of things, this place is booming with volunteers. So many volunteers when it comes to all the events, and we have awesome volunteers that sit at the desk daily to help out with anybody coming in the door. So that side of things, we are thriving when it comes to volunteers and the senior side of things.
Is there like a link on the page to volunteer?
There's
or-
not, and that's what I
Okay.
need to add.
Nice. 'Cause I know somebody that would
Yes.
probably be interested in helping with 5K, but I don't know.
Exactly, yes.
Right.
That is one of the things that that came to my attention today after the Dickens meeting, that I need to make a valiant effort at. Here's what you can volunteer for throughout the year. And even with like sports programming, when it comes to the little kids, 22 and 3-year-olds in soccer, and I had Max this year, or last year, but having more volunteers to help out with that, stuff like that would be amazing. So it's just on me for putting the word out there that there are opportunities for people to volunteer for. So.
I hate to even ask this, but for volunteers for the youth programs,
Yeah.
do we need to look into any type of screening or background?
Yeah, so I haven't done it here, but in my previous community, like anybody who helped coach, whatever it may be, they had to go through a background check. Because I've definitely ran into circumstances where it was not, I did not do that and it wasn't great, so with who I had help. So I definitely will make that part of the process. I'm so sorry.
Do you need any support from us to, careful, like to put that into a policy practice, or do we need to state anything like that in our support of you? I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I guess
Yeah,
let's
I
think
can-
about it for next time.
Yeah, I'll whip up something, get something formalized, and then I'll bring it back to you guys at our next meeting.
So we sort of breached this conversation too in the agreements with the ball
I was
clubs,
gonna say that through the,
saying we did have a suggested language in there to say to them, you should do background checks on people, but we thought that was a bit of a reach. But if we were to run the program as a city, we would have an extensive background policy for any volunteers and coaches. But, so I think it's something we can, if we set up some sort of policy, we can, kind of say, hey, we suggest you all do this.
Okay. You could reach out to the high school too and see if they could get credit for volunteering to help you with the littler kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a lot of the students need to do extra,
Mhm.
for their classes and that stuff.
I think when Max did the punt, pass and kick thing, I thought he had football players from the college.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they're always wanting to come out and it just elevates it for the kids a little bit.
They need to graduate.
Great for,
Yeah.
Get
I don't
their
know, I just sat through that whole
words.
thing and I ignored that part.
Anything else for Ashton on the annual report?
If you want to make a motion to approve the annual report and forward it to the council, then Ashton will,
I'll make that abbreviated version.
she'll present the whole thing.
Somebody wanna make that motion? Otherwise, I'll make that motion.
And then also where I went, so somebody else's turn.
I move to approve the annual report from Parks and Recs, with the understanding that some small changes, we give you the authority to make.
Yeah.
And based on also the feedback here, and so to approve that, given that, and move forward to sharing it with the entire city council.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now let's hear from you again on the
Okay.
Park and Rec Director's
Yeah.
report.
I won't have too much to add to this part, but I already explained that Christine was gone since December. So I've been taking over the senior side of things as well as rec. So luckily, God bless, Christine is coming back to me, but it's really like eye-opening what is all involved. I obviously see the seniors every day, I'm involved in it, I oversee it and whatnot, but like being the person involved in it all, it's a lot of demand from that, not saying they're demanding, but it's a lot from that population, so I give her all the credit for what she does for programming and whatnot, so but programming is all set to go for February for the seniors. The newsletters just arrived today, so so we'll transition that back to her in next week. Programming wise, now that I can put a little bit more of my focus back into rec, I'm developing the list of 2025 programming based on like what I said, what has worked, what didn't work. Taking out programs that I don't think are super successful and adding more in that I've wanted to do in the past, but I didn't want to start out in my first year like, here's all these programs, and so adding in things that I've been wanting to do, now that I'm a few years in. I met with the Boys and Girls Club last week, to just go over how we can collaborate on programming now that they will be coming in June, or they'll be starting their programming in June, as well because they have a large indoor space that I don't have access to in town. Obviously I can use the schools and whatnot, but, or like I use Barlow, but.
Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll be awesome. They're definitely willing to work with me. Ashley Dodson, I met with her again on Friday. She gave me a tour of the facility and what they all will have to offer. So senior side of things and rec, they're willing to work with me. We haven't, obviously nothing is solidified, but just brainstorming what we can do together and bringing that back to them. So that's awesome. And other than that, I applied for the T-Mobile grant. That was specifically for the fishing piers and a kayak launch at Selfridge Park. It's a $50,000 grant that is awarded, I think it's like quarterly, to a select amount of communities. So it's a competitive grant. So we'll see if we get it or not, but I did apply to that. And that's, I added here the park tool part about the parts. So hopefully that will be ordered soon and be replaced. So I am definitely still working on that, just I have to wait for the tax exempt stuff to go through. So, but that's primarily what I have for the Park and Rec Director report.
All right, I will slowly move to project updates if you have any other things for me to speak once again.
Yeah, so our Selfridge Park, I don't know what your last conversation was with Dan. Was it the fishing piers and kayak launches? We have a more clear design or more clear thought on what we're going to do with that. When it comes to the style of pier that we do, or that we will be putting in, and it's still in the, hasn't been laid out yet, right? No, it's still in the more design phase.
Maybe take over for a second.
Yeah, please.
So Selfridge Park, we met and talked with MSA regarding the design of it. So they have most of the trail and kind of the parking lot and kind of those things, the civil site done. They've been able to place the playground in. I think Ashton was able to order the playground, so that'll kind of have to be coordinated with everything. The biggest question becomes is what type and style of piers and with docks do you put in for kayak and fishing? So we had some conversations about how that could look or feel, and in the design, and maybe doing some things that are maybe a little unique or just maybe not exactly what we had intended or what we had put in an initial plan, but still get us to something that creates accessible areas for fishing and primarily because there's going to be some just some challenges with some of the shoreline and the on the south side, is that south side? Yeah, south side, where there's that kind of barrier cap. So Alliant Energy did excavate, get that all cleaned up, so the site now is prepared for whatever we need to do. So I would envision having by hopefully February here, sort of getting closer to bidding it out. I mean, it's getting kind of late. We've been prioritizing some road projects over that. And then we throw in the library too. So there's a couple projects that have jumped. But we'll get you information on what gets designed out and have you all review it before it goes to 100%.
I already talked about Warner and the chairs and everything coming. Talked briefly about the Murray Park Quad project. So like I said, I met with Dan, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, to spec it out because the quotes that we did receive, they were so vast and different. Because I didn't specifically say, dig this far or dig this deep and put this exact type of material and whatever it may be. So they were very, one was 150,000, another one was 75,000. So it was very different on the opposite ends of the spectrum. So Dan came out to create a spec of exactly what we want, how far to go out into the outfield, because I told them that softball, they use it for their tournament, so to be able to have a field that is like a regulated softball distance as well, so it works for all of the groups, things like that, that everybody can use it. And if you guys remember correctly, you guys approved removing the infield grass as well, so it looked like a softball type essentially. But that was the last thing on that. Oh, and that's not exciting whatsoever, but the Barrow Park ball diamond lights. There's like 8 lights that are out the ball diamond, and obviously they're very high, so there's only so many electrical companies that will come out and bring a lift to replace them. So that is, I actually met with one of them today out there, working to see, or get some quotes on that work, getting those 8 lights replaced, or seeing how much it costs to just replace all 56 of them. Very different than 8, but but someone mentioned if 8 are burnt out, or 8 more are going to burn out next year, and because I have no record of when they were all replaced, so unfortunately I don't know that information, but we're just seeing what it would cost for all 56. So.
Are they already energy efficient, or is that something that could be saving?
Definitely not. Yeah, they're the old can lights. They are also giving us a quote on what it would cost to go LED. So, just to see.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a lot, but not probably, it will be a lot.
It's gonna be a lot, and
But-
I also wonder too, like, cause that's also on the list of, a park that's gonna be redone.
Yeah.
Just wait until then.
Yeah,
To replace it all,
yes,
so yeah, I'll have to see what that costs.
yeah, I'm curious as well.
Speaking of Barlow, though, did that, I remember you applied for some ginormous grant for there.
Oh yeah, we applied for a grant for Barlow Park, we did not get that grant, the
Okay.
library got the grant.
The last,
So
Okay.
we.
as long as we got it either way.
Yeah.
So this is how, this is funny. The library scored, I think, an 85 out of 100, the Barlow Park project scored an 83.
Oh.
Too bad they couldn't miss game ball.
Yeah.
That would've been awesome.
I'll just mention too that a project we've been working on in the background too is some security at some of the parks. So I met with Joe. So we may be proposing something eventually to put some cameras up and maybe do, we're going to invest a lot of dollars in Selfridge, so we want to, as part of that project, add some, security because the bathrooms there have been, frankly, up here, a lot of vandalism this past year, and at Ripon Park bathrooms and whatnot, so we are, looking at what options we have for that, to better monitor, so.
That's our purpose.
If you have any suggestions for the agenda, please let Ashton know for the next meeting, and then I'm assuming you'll figure out some way we can have another meeting here and what day that might be. So, appreciate that. All right. If you'd like to all hang out, you can, but if somebody'd like to make a motion, that'd be great too.
I move to adjourn.
That's second. Any further discussion? Didn't think so? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Appreciate it.